All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, December 14th, 2021, and you are now watching Permission to Exist. I am your host, Permission to Exist, also known as PTE, and this is going to be a very quick early morning stream. I couldn't wait to do this. As soon as I saw it, I had to bring it to you right away. So, welcome to everyone. Morning to those of you for who it is morning. Good afternoon for those of you who it's afternoon. And for some of you, it's actually evening. So, hello to everyone and welcome. Good to have you. So, our old friends are back at it again. These corporations won't stop. And this situation reminded me of one of the most important things that I'm supposed to be talking about on this channel. So, here we are. So, welcome as everyone fills into the room. We're going to get started momentarily. All right. So, let's start off with a little context setting. So, first of all, those of you who've been around for a long time with the channel know that work, the workplace, corporations, the treatment of employees has been a hot topic of mine for a very long time for many, many reasons. But the main reason is this: the main reason is I actually believe in work. I think work can set a person free in terms of them being able to provide for themselves and therefore create their own lives. So I'm a strong believer in that. And therefore, I believe it should be protected because, especially here in America, they claim that anyone can do anything if you just put your mind to it. That's what they say. So the only way to make that true is to make work and the workplace one of the most neutral places on planet Earth, meaning you really have to screw it up. But no one is like messing with you, causing you to screw it up, basically. So I did a whole book on it. It's called Surviving Narcissists in the Workplace. It is in the Amazon Kindle store. I don't have a link on me right here in front of me, but you can find it if you just search Amazon Kindle. And I will put a link in the comments once the show is over. So that's kind of where all this is coming from. I'm a very, very passionate defender of employees and employee rights. And for those of you who either don't know or do know and are upset with me, if you stick around to the end of the show, you might understand why I have the position I have on the whole vaccine mandate issue. It all stems from this, not this one event, it stems from this attitude and this spirit that is often carried in these corporations. And that attitude and spirit essentially is I own your whole life, do as I say, or I will essentially kill you. That's basically the narcissist mantra. Do what I say, or I'll kill you. That's the narcissist mantra. Now, do they always mean to kill you? No, not always. Sometimes they accidentally kill you, or casually, even, because narcissists suffer from this issue where they either refuse to look down the road and predict outcomes, or they can't. So they either can't do it or they won't do it or both, some combination of the two. But my personal philosophy has always been just because you can't look down the road and foresee consequences doesn't mean that I can't. And I'm going to take the necessary precautions to protect myself because who else will? If I don't look out for me in terms of literally keeping myself safe, then who else will? The issue that I'm finding in our society is that a lot of people, I believe, really do think that the corporation has their best interests at heart. And I'm not going to lie and say that when I was younger, I didn't think the same thing, because to me, if you could if you could prop up something so massive, then surely you've got some kind of positive interest at heart, right? Oh, dear naive sweet child. I learned the hard way. I was raised to do exactly what the society says you're supposed to do: work hard, apply yourself, get your education, show up, put your best foot forward, always give a little bit extra than you're supposed to, and you will be rewarded. And I learned the hard way that that works in a society that's not filled to the brim with people suffering from severe personality disorders. That type of thinking only really works when you're dealing with reasonable, rational people. And what they didn't tell us in school, and what they didn't tell us when they were raising us, is that we were going to encounter not only a very large number of irrational people, but a lot of, I really hate to say mentally ill, because mentally ill implies some parts of it are out of their control. And I really do think these people have a lot of control over their mind. They just allow it to become this way. They didn't tell us that we'd be up against that. They left that part out. Okay. So, why am I giving you all this context and background? It's to say that the survival instinct that I possess, truly, in my opinion, has navigated me throughout this life and protected me from situations similar to this. Okay. Now, nothing this extreme has ever occurred in my life, but who's to say what could have happened if I hadn't taken protective, preventative measures? All right. So, why don't we take a look at what actually took place? Then I'm going to share a little story with you. Some of you actually already know this story, but I'm going to share that story with you after we look at this article, and then we're really going to talk about what this means. Because as I've said before many times on this channel, I'm very, very concerned that you guys don't know what freedom really is. I said that before, and I think the first time I said that is when we were doing the corporate cults series. If you haven't seen it, there is a playlist called the Corporate Cults Review Series. Go check it out and really take the time to listen to it. I'm working on a supercut for it, but that's going to take a while for me to release. But you need to listen to it and take it very seriously, because if you don't know what freedom really is, you will give it away and you'll lose it immediately. We're already losing it. Now, not entirely though, because some of us actually do know what freedom is, but a lot of us literally don't. It's so bizarre. It's strange to me. I'm like, where did everybody's survival instinct go? Like, it's completely gone. But anyway, what happened in this situation, as you all know, there were some very devastating tornadoes pretty much through the middle of the United States. It affected several states, but Kentucky was hit particularly hard. And in that hit, an Amazon warehouse collapsed, killing, I believe the current count is 6 people, 6 Amazon employees. Now, that's tragic all by itself and very, very sad. And y'all know I hate it when people die at work. I can't stand it. Like, I want you to die at home or in a hospital surrounded by friends and family, not at work. I hate that. Like, I cannot stand that. That's not an appropriate end. But anyway, 6 people passed away at the Amazon warehouse alone. And I think the current count is 74 and over 100 people missing. So this was a really, really, really bad situation, you guys. So when I heard about the whole Amazon thing, my first initial thought was, dang, the tornadoes hit so fast, they didn't even have time to leave work. That's what I thought. Well, as the stories have started to come out, it turns out that not only did the people at the Amazon warehouse have enough time to leave, they were essentially told that they were not allowed to leave, you guys. And one of the people who passed away at the Amazon warehouse was told, basically was just told flat out, you're not allowed to leave. Like, you need to stay here. Okay. So let's take a look at that together. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let me see if I can make this little bar disappear. There we go. All right. So this is an aerial shot. And you can see there it says Amazon worker who died in warehouse collapse was not allowed to leave, his girlfriend says. Okay. So this kind of initially triggered the show, but we're actually going to take a look at another article that really sealed it for me, you guys. Okay. So this came out on December 12th, 2 days ago. Sorry. This is the aerial view. And this portion over here to the right is the portion that got destroyed. So this is a very large complex. These two buildings did not get destroyed, but this one half of it did. Okay. So it says one of the victims who was killed when a tornado collapsed an Amazon warehouse in Illinois. Okay, I apologize. This was Illinois. Text his girlfriend before the deadly tornado, saying that the company had ordered him to hold off driving home and stay put until the storm passed. Larry Verdon, 46, was killed Friday night when the roof came down at a massive Amazon facility. I got text messages from him. He always tells me when he is filling up the Amazon truck when he's getting ready to go back. I was like, okay, I love you. He was like, well, Amazon won't let me leave until after the storm blows over. His girlfriend of 13 years, Sherry Jones, told the Post on Sunday. She said the text was sent around 8:23 p.m., 16 minutes before the tornado reportedly touched down at 8:39. The couple lived in nearby Collinsville, which Jones said is about 13 minutes away from the warehouse, okay? We heard the tornado didn't touch down until 8:39, so he had 20 minutes to get home, she said. I messaged him and that was the last text message I got from him, she said. I told him where we live. It was only lightning at the time. After that, I got nothing from him. Verdon, who had worked for Amazon for 5 months, this website, I'm sorry, y'all, it's jumping around like this, was the father of 4 children, including adopted children, and the couple of 13 years had 3 children together between the ages of 9 and 12. Asked if she faults Amazon for his death, Jones said with a sigh, not really, but it's that what if situation. What if they had let him leave? He could have made it home. Okay. So, and the gentleman was a U.S. Army vet and he served in Iraq. Okay. Now, that was the first story that I heard come out regarding this situation, that they weren't allowed to leave. But then my thought process before I saw the second article from today was, well, I know a lot of times companies want you to shelter in place, like in the hallways and stuff. So I didn't necessarily think there was any ill intent yet. Okay. Not yet. It wasn't until I saw this article that came out of the Kentucky warehouse. So that was Illinois that we just looked at. Okay. It wasn't until I saw this article that was actually published this morning. Pretty sure, because you got they've stopped putting dates on things. So yeah, there's no date on here. I'm just looking to see. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that, you guys. We've been talking about this on my other channel a lot, A Deeper PTE, but for some reason, news outlets have stopped putting the date that they published articles on things, and this would be one of them. How interesting. I really wonder why they are doing that. I think it's to give themselves wiggle room to change things to where it's like, oh, I didn't edit that article. That article hadn't even been published yet. You see what I mean? But how weird, like this is the first thing they taught us in school. Put the date, put your name and the date on your paper or you won't get a grade. But anyway, I'm pretty sure this came out this morning. Factory bosses to workers before tornado. If you leave, you're more than likely to be fired. At least 8 people died in the Mayfield Consumer Products candle factory. Its destruction has become a symbol of the tornado's ruinous power. Uh-oh, I think I made a journalistic error. Hold on, let me see. I think I made a journalistic error, you guys. I did. Ooh, I need to change my thumbnail. So, okay. Man, before I read this, the candle factory was not an Amazon facility. I apologize, but I could have sworn they said that it was the Amazon factory that got destroyed. Is this not the Amazon factory? Maybe it's a branch. I'll have to fix that on the back end. We're leaving it for now, though, because we did just look at an article where an Amazon worker did indeed die in a warehouse, but this was in Illinois. So I apologize, you guys. It looks like I crossed up the two states, but doesn't matter though. It's kind of the same thing. So we're going to take a look anyway, even though I don't think this factory is part of Amazon. So I need to fix that. Okay. So it's still the same issue though. As a catastrophic tornado approached this city Friday, employees of a candle factory, which would later be destroyed, heard the warning sirens and wanted to leave the building. But at least 5 workers said supervisors warned employees that they would be fired if they left their shifts early. Okay. So this is a little different from the Amazon situation, but still similar. So these people wanted to go home, you guys. It says, for hours, as word of the coming storm spread, as many as 15 workers beseeched managers to let them take shelter at their own homes, only to have their requests rebuffed, the worker said. Fearing for their safety, some left during their shifts, regardless of the repercussions. All right? At least 8 people died in the Mayfield Consumer Products Factory, which makes scented candles. The facility was leveled, and all that is left is rubble. Photos and videos of its widespread mangled remains have become symbols of the enormous destructive power of Friday's tornado system. And so far, 74 people have been confirmed dead in the state of Kentucky. All right. Okay, I see. It says, no, that was the candle factory. The Amazon building was partially destroyed. Okay. So I need to, need to fix my thumbnail pronto. But it's still the same issue, though. Same issue. They wouldn't let me leave. Here, I can change my title real quick, though. I may not be able to change the thumbnail yet, but I can change my title. Boom. So I just changed it back to factory. All right. And I'll change the other part later. Okay. Oh, but there's more, you guys. All right. So, Michaela Emery, 21, said in an interview from her hospital bed that workers first asked to leave shortly after tornado sirens sounded outside the factory at 5:30 p.m. Okay, so here's a picture of the building before. Very pretty, looks like very pretty grounds. And then here's the building after, just completely level, completely flattened. Okay. Like, how terrifying. Employees congregated in bathrooms and inside hallways, but the real tornado wouldn't arrive for several more hours. After employees decided that the immediate danger had passed, several began asking to go home, the worker said. People had questioned if they could leave or go home, said Emery, who preferred to stay at work and make extra money. Overtime pay was available, but it wasn't clear whether those who stayed were offered additional pay. Supervisors and team leaders told employees that leaving would probably jeopardize their jobs, the employees said. If you leave, you're more than likely to be fired. Emery said she overheard managers tell 4 workers standing near her who wanted to leave. I heard that with my own ears. About 15 people asked to go home during the night shift shortly after the first emergency alarm sounded outside the facility. There was a 3 to 4 hour window between the first and second emergency alarms when workers should have been allowed to go home, she said. Initially, Condor said team leaders told her they wouldn't let workers leave because of safety precautions. So they kept everyone in the hallways and the bathrooms. And see, that's what I thought was kind of normal. It says once they mistakenly thought the tornado was no longer a danger, they sent everyone back to work. Anyone who wanted to leave should have been allowed to, Condor said. Elijah Johnson was working in the back of the building when several employees wanting to head home walked in to speak with supervisors. He joined in on the request. I asked to leave and they told me I'd be fired, Johnson said. Even with weather like this, you're still going to fire me? He asked. Yes, a manager responded. Johnson said managers went so far as to take a roll call in hopes of finding out who had left work. Company officials have denied the allegations. Okay. So, and it just kind of goes into a few more details from there. Here we go. Okay. So, this is to the part where now the tornado actually hits. It says the first tornado warning passed without any damage, but several hours later, another warning was issued. Once the second tornado siren sounded sometime after 9, Condor and a group of others approached 3 managers asking to go home. You can't leave, you can't leave, you have to stay here, they were told. The situation was bad and everyone was uncomfortable. I'm trying to get to the part where it actually, here we go. As the storm moved forward after the second siren, the employees took shelter. The lights in the building started to flicker. Moments later, Emery, who was standing near the candle wax and fragrance room, was struck in the head by a piece of concrete. I kid you not, I heard a loud noise, and the next thing I know, I was stuck under a cement wall, and I couldn't move anything. I couldn't push anything. I was stuck. Emery was tracked for 6 hours, had several chemical burn marks on her legs, her buttocks, and forehead from the candle wax. She also sustained kidney damage. Her urine is black, and she still can't move her legs because of the swelling and from having been motionless for so long. Wow. Oh my God. Employees who wanted to go home early said they were mistreated. It hurts because I feel like we were neglected, Saxton said. Okay. So that is that article in NBC News with no publishing date on it. Very nice. Quite lovely, NBC. Okay. So just to clarify and recap really quickly, I made an error and my thumbnail is not correct. I need to fix it. These are 2 different factories, but the same situation that happened at both. So in the first story that we read, an Amazon worker died in an Amazon warehouse in Illinois, and he was not allowed to leave. Wanted to leave, but was not allowed to leave. Okay. Then over in Kentucky, where the candle factory got destroyed, not associated with Amazon, the workers there were told that they're not allowed to leave. Okay. Not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to go home. All right. So now that we have the articles and the situations out of the way, let's chit chat through what this means, grand scheme. Okay. We won't be here too long because I got to rush and fix this thumbnail anyway. Let's see if I can walk and chew gum at the same time. So this is very, very frustrating and upsetting to me for so many different reasons, y'all. Number one, well, actually, you know what? I know how I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'll tell you the story I was going to tell you. So, again, some of you already know the story. You're very familiar with it, but some have never heard it before. So, I am going to repeat it. Many years ago, at one of the jobs that I was working at, they love to do what they call off-site team building activities, meaning team building activities that occur somewhere else other than the office. And for this particular event, they had chosen a cabin in the woods for their team building activity. Now, that's fine or whatever, but this is after an all-day affair. So we literally met that morning. We went, we had breakfast, then we drove, we did something. I don't entirely remember what it was. Left, had lunch. Then after we had lunch, we left from lunch and drove out to this cabin, like an hour and a half outside of town in the Georgia mountains. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. So, I don't know at what point I knew I was not going to stay for the whole night because the expectation is that we were going to spend the night there with the team, which I mean, this is just too much. Like this is like why this level of why this level of involvement? Okay? So anyway, like that's too much. Like people have families, you know what I mean? Kids, pets, and we got to spend the night with our coworkers, literally. So anyway, I think the moment that changed it for me was when we got there and I realized that I was going to be sleeping in a room with like five other people. So essentially, it was like a bunk bed type situation. Boom, changed it. Haha, changed it. All right, my thumbnails changed. Perfect. Essentially, it was like a bunk bed situation. And I just wasn't into it, you guys. I really wasn't. And then the cabin itself was super creepy. It gave me very, very creepy vibes. And it was like up on this mountain. So, like, we had to drive up a mountain, which I didn't even know you could do that, but you can. Like, you can drive like a mile or two up a mountain, not straight up, obviously, like a roller coaster, but like a gentle incline, basically, maybe like 45 degrees, maybe. So, we're driving up this single narrow lane pathway of this mountain. I'm spotting flags that are making me uncomfortable. I'm like, oh no, the bodies of the ancestors are here. I got to get out of here. We finally make it up to the actual cabin. Like, I see why people do it. I do understand why people do it. Like, it was peaceful if you aren't freaked out, you know? And when the sun was out, it was beautiful. But at night, y'all, like, wow, there is no nighttime like nighttime in the woods. It's pitch black. And the worst part about it is that you can hear everything. So when you kind of live in the city or like close to the city, you get used to hearing airplanes, cars, sirens in the distance. You know what I mean? You get used to hearing activity nearby. But in the woods, there's no nearby activity. And you can hear a pin drop like a mile away. And it's actually very uncomfortable. So, anyway, at some point, I just decided, I was like, I can't do this. I'm not staying here tonight. And the reason I'm telling you the story is because I was new at the company. Their team buildings were very, very, very important to them. And you don't leave. Like, are you trying to lose your job? You don't leave the team building. Like, you stay with everyone else, you get drunk with everyone else, and spend the night with your coworkers. That's what you do. You don't leave. But y'all, I left. I left. And so I tell you that story to say, though it may not sound like a very courageous act, what I did, if you understood the level of cult that I was dealing with and the level of cult breaking that I was doing by not spending the night at the cabin, then you'd understand why it took so much courage. You understand? So I say that to say the title of the show and the topic of the show is never be afraid to leave. Never, you guys. Never be afraid to leave. And what I hate the most about this story is that, like with everything else, they want to threaten your life, really, because what is your job really? Your job, in many ways, is kind of sort of your life. So, part of what I work on or have tried to work on in the past in this channel is separating you from that idea, separating you from the idea that your job is your life and your everything. And that if you don't do this, like it's do or die, basically. And like I've never taken any of these people that seriously. Never. And I think that's part of the reason I have issues out of them. Because as someone said in a chat from a different show the other day, it's almost like you see right through them. Like I see right through all of this. You know what I mean? And I understand that you don't understand the assignment. So I've never hinged my entire identity on a job. I've always kept it in proper focus, which is you are my employer and that's it. And I owe you the duties of this employment contract which I will fulfill to the fullest extent. And if I give you a little bit more, consider yourself lucky. But other than that, that's where it ends. I'm still my own person. I am an adult, and I will make decisions for me and my person and myself and my body. I will never allow you to do that to me or for me. So I've never allowed an employer to occupy that place in my life. I've always understood that we are separate entities, honey. We're separate. But so many people don't feel that way, you guys. So I really feel like I need to refocus on this again in the new year, reminding people how not to get so enmeshed with your employer, because how very sad that some of them were basically begging to go home, and were too scared to leave, too scared to leave, too scared to walk out and risk getting fired. You know what I mean? And so many of them were young too, 20, 21. Like young people typically have not developed that spirit yet. I think I've always had it. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I think you've always been this person. You just didn't realize it. You didn't see it before, but you've always been this little girl, always. Like, I would have been the girl, or I would have been in that group who walked out and left. So from, I think it was the second article we read, said some people just went ahead and left and they didn't care about the repercussions. That would have been me. Okay. That would have been me. Do whatever you feel like you have to do. I'm going home to protect my animals, or if I had kids, to protect my kids or be with my spouse. I'm going home. Like, to hell with these candles in this factory. I'm going home. And unless you're planning on physically restraining me, there's nothing you can do to me. You understand? But see, I think a lot of that also comes from great faith, not just religious faith, but faith in self. The simple knowledge that, oh, well, if this candle factory fires me, I can get another job and I'll be just fine. You must remember, like, look at the past year. These people are desperate, you guys, desperate for employees. They claim nobody wants to work. That's not true. They're going up in salary. They're doing everything to try to beg you back because you have always had the most power, always. This factory can't run without employees, period. It would just be an empty building with nothing going on. You have always had all the power. But the reason that they work so hard to make you forget that is because they want you to forget that. Because the day that you actually realize you have all the power is the day that they lose theirs. What was the number one concern on their mind? What was the number one thing that they were concerned about? Getting these candles out. That's what they were concerned about, you guys. Making sure these candles met their deadlines and their shipment orders. God forbid you miss a deadline for the candles, not food, candles. Not that food would have been any different or any better, but we're talking about candles here. Do you see what I'm saying? Not water, not precious foodstuffs, candles. I would have said to hell with you and your candles. I'm leaving. Bye. Like, I have never been scared to leave, y'all. Never. Be that a relationship, a job, an apartment, or a place of residence. Never. I've never been afraid to leave. I don't let these people dictate me. I don't let them rule me by fear. I really don't. And I feel like I spend a lot of my time trying to convince you not to allow yourself to be ruled by fear either. Because you know what I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, how many people in this factory, well, it's Kentucky, maybe not. Never mind, I won't say that. I'll save that for my other show. But I want you all to put these people in their proper mental place, meaning they're not your parents. They're not God. Why don't we start there? They are not God. They are not the divine creator. They're not your parents. They're your employer. They're a person who's trading you time, effort, and energy for a paycheck. But guess what? You can't trade any of those things if you don't have your life. I'll never forget, this is a different company, and this was such a weird situation. Long story short, once again, so much goes wrong on these company trips, man. There was another company trip out of state. The whole company came together, and one of the employees, for lack of better words, kind of had like I would say a psychotic break. Honestly, I think he had some sort of mental meltdown. I don't know what happened, but I do think I saved his life that day, because we were like cool. We weren't like friends. We were just cool leading up to that. And I remember being outside of the hotel and seeing him walk by, and he didn't have a jacket on. And it was ice cold outside where we were. It was so cold. Oh my God. What can I call him? I'll call him Scott, because Dr. Scott Peck's book is in front of me. I was like, Scott, I was like, what are you doing? And he came up to me, y'all, and he talked to me probably for like 30 minutes straight without taking a breath about everything, anything, and nothing at all. Like it was just gone, like, shoom. Like he was off in outer space. I don't know what was going on with this kid, but I figured I was doing a good thing because I was keeping him contained and at least like, not out engaged with like the police or something. So anyway, finally got him calmed down. The whole situation got him to go to his room. The whole situation fizzles out. Well, turns out like the reason he was walking in the cold that night was because he had just like got on stage in front of like the whole company at some they had all gone to some little thing or whatever. It wasn't mandatory, so I wasn't there. And he like took the microphone and like, oh man, it was bad. It was worse than I knew. Like I only caught the tail end, right? So why am I giving you all this backstory? To tell you that the following week, when we were back in town, they decided to fire this individual over that event, over that little situation, which it was so upsetting to me, you guys, because like he was fine until that work trip. He was doing just fine. He had no problems at work. He was doing his job. Everything was all good. One work trip, he loses his job because he was out of his element. You see what I'm saying? Like people need to be in their environment. They can't be thrown off like that all the time. And don't get me started. That'll take me down a different pathway. But anyway, I was teaching a class for this particular company, and they fired this guy. And then one of my coworkers comes to the room and she pulls me out. And she was like, hey, they just fired Scott. And I was like, oh my God, really? I was like, that's so sad. That's terrible. Because honestly, well, y'all know me and spotting them right away. But he seemed like a really nice person. He really did, who just had some sort of psychotic break in the middle of a work function. Anyway, I felt bad for him. I was like, well, thanks for letting me know. She was like, well, I don't think it went very well. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, he seems really, really upset. I was like, so what are you saying? She was like, I don't know. So I was like, okay. So went and either called or Teams or however we got in touch with each other, Slacked my boss. And I was like, hey, they just fired Scott and it doesn't sound like it went well. What should I do? And long story short, y'all, they basically said, you go ahead and make the call. They're like, if you feel uncomfortable and unsafe and you want to dismiss the class for the day, go ahead because, we don't know what he's going to do. So you don't say something like that to me. We don't know what he's going to do. I got a class of 30 people, and I'm the one who was talking to him out in the cold for 30 minutes while he went through his psychotic meltdown. So I dismissed the class. I went in there and I just said, guys, exactly. The chat says, be nice to everyone so they don't come back blasting. Exactly. I went back to the class. I said, guys, I'm so sorry. We had a couple more hours left for the day, but unfortunately, there's been a situation And in the interest of keeping everyone safe, we're just going to have everyone dismissed for the day. Thanks so much. And we'll see you tomorrow. But, watch your email or whatever. Just try not to make people panic. Well, turns out they didn't want me to do that. And in all the fallout of all of this, they were like, oh, that's not what we meant. We didn't mean send everybody home. We meant, just keep everyone calm. I said, well, you need to say that, honey. I said, when I say, well, what do you want me to do? And you say it's your call. Like, okay, well, look, he melted down with me for 30 minutes outside. So I know how crazy he is, basically. So I'm sending everyone home because because wow, right? So anyway, they got mad, but my whole thing was this, y'all. Never be afraid to leave. Never be afraid to leave. Because my thought process was this. He's clearly unstable in some meaningful way. He had a job before he left for this work trip, came back from a work trip and lost his job as a result of the work trip that he probably didn't want to go on in the first place. You see what I'm saying? Had a psychotic break, lost his job. Like, I don't know where that's going to leave him mentally. He knows where we are. He knows exactly where we are. He knows how to get in. He has access because this is basically where he works. This is his building. We were just in a different part of the building. I just didn't like any of it. So I sent them home. And they got very, very upset with me. They were like, don't ever dismiss a class without coming to us first. I said, I did come to you first. I said, I told you everything that happened. I asked you, what do you want me to do? You told me it's your call. You just didn't think you didn't think I would say, all right, y'all, I'll see you tomorrow. I don't play games like that. How many times has someone shown up to a workplace blazing? How many times? Like, we can barely count. And over like smaller issues, you know what I mean? So anyway, why am I telling y'all this long story? One of PTE's war stories, to let you know, don't ever be afraid to leave. Ever. Never be afraid. Never. Like, if I had been a participant in that class and I caught wind of what was going on, I would have been like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm like, say what now? Y'all just fired some guy and he was going nuts at the work function? Oh, no. Where's my bag? Goodbye. I'm leaving now. Because I could see, because the way they set it up, the reason I think it scared me so badly is because okay, there's so many details. The day after his meltdown, we were still out of town. And he reached out. He was just like, I'm so scared. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for being there, blah, 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 whatever. I told y'all, people go crazy with me. They love to have their meltdowns with me. I don't know why. But anyway, he was like, do you think everything's going to be okay? I was like, I don't know. Like, because the way I felt about it was this. You call somebody out of town, away from their house, you get them drunk. Then when they hop up on stage and take the mic from you and start going into a soliloquy, I mean, well, what do you expect? But anyway, basically they set him up to where they made it seem like everything was going to be just fine. They made it seem like he had a lot of grace. Y'all know that grace I'm always talking about. And this is a white boy too, by the way. And I only include that detail to let you know that, like, he had no covering and no protection whatsoever. They made it seem like he was going to be just fine, like his job was safe. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it was embarrassing, but no big deal. And then for that to turn into, yeah, you're fired. That's why I thought he was going to snap, because they didn't tell him when we were out of town, you're fired, right? They waited till he got back home to fire him. And I just thought that was so messed up. Like, if you're going to fire someone, fire them on the spot. You know what I mean? Even if they are out of town, fire them out of town so they know what's up. But you don't let somebody stay. You don't let somebody think they still have a job for the duration of the work trip and then fire them when you get back into the States. Not into the States, sorry. We were in the States. Fire them when you get back into the state that you live in. You don't do that. So anyway, why do I tell you all that? Just to tell you that the one time I let a class go early and I wasn't supposed to in my workplace world was because I was afraid one of my fellow coworkers they had just fired was going to come do something stupid. And I got in trouble for that. That's the point of that story. The point is I got in trouble for that. But I'm like, you don't come to me and tell me you just fired an unstable person and it didn't go well. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? And they're like, well, it's your call. You don't tell me something like that. I'm always going to err on the side of caution. Always. Always. So I say that also to say that being this way and being this type of person often will get you in trouble. Being the person to say, look, I'm leaving. And if that means you have to fire me, so be it. But I'm going to try to beat this storm home. It sounds very serious. I'm leaving. They're terrified of people like you because what's the only other option after that? You're my boss. There's a storm coming. I come to you and I say, hey, boss man, hey, boss lady, there's a storm coming and I'm very worried. They're saying it's going to be really severe. I think I should get home before it gets too bad. And you tell me if you leave, I will fire you. And I say to you, okay, that's fine. What's your next step? You have two options. You have three. You either fire me, you don't fire me and just write me up on some sort of warning or something, or you physically try to restrain me. Those are your three options. And the two options I was thinking of really was either you fire me or you physically try to restrain me. You put your hands on me. That's your only other option. So because most people are not willing to put their hands on you to get their way, it enrages them. It infuriates them. Do you understand? And I'm not saying do anything that's outside of your rights. What I'm saying is when you're exercising rights within your rights and it's just not what they want, it goes against their will. They really only have a few options, one of which is to lay hands on you, put hands on you, physically restrain you, hold you like, no, you're not leaving. I said you're not going. Almost like you're a child. Like if your 4-year-old told you, mommy, I'm going outside and it's 11 o'clock at night, you say, you're not going outside. And they're like, yes, I am. And they go to open the front door, unlock it and open it. Are you just going to let them walk outside? Probably not. I don't know. Some of you might live in safe neighborhoods. So maybe you do let your 4-year-old just storm out the door. But most parents are going to get up, go grab the child by their little wrist or shoulder or arm or whatever, close the door, lock it back, and physically drag the child back into the house. That's what you're going to do. Well, that's what they want to do to you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what they actually want to do to you. But because they can't, they use fear and threats and intimidation and basically the threat of ruining your whole entire life if you don't comply with their wishes. This is how people end up in these jobs for decades sometimes. There were probably people working in this factory who've been meaning to quit for years, but every time they go and try to quit, you know what their boss says to them? Well, I mean, you can quit this job if you want, but there aren't that many other candle factories in the area. And I know all the owners of all the other factories. So if you go apply over there, I'll just tell them you weren't a very good employee over here. Yeah, I'm not going to give you a good reference. So if you're going to find another job, don't go over there because I know everybody over there. So, in other words, you're stuck. In other words, I'm threatening your life, basically. If you try to leave me, I will go all around town telling everyone what a horrible person you are. So you won't be able to find work anywhere else. So you'll starve to death. Do what I say, or I will kill you. Do you understand? Do what I say, or I'll kill you. So, man, there is a channel floating out there in the YouTube streets called Pettynomics. One day I'm going to revive her because we need to talk about her again because the whole reason that I even started that channel is because money is so intricately woven into all of this. Money, location, because see, another part of the issue is if you're in or live in a small town or you work in a small town, it's much easier to threaten you in this way. Because if you know there really aren't that many other jobs in town, well, then, yeah, your boss can threaten your life because they know you can't go anywhere else. They know there's really nowhere else for you to go. So I say that to say I'm a huge advocate for relocating when you're able. I highly recommend it. It's one of the best things that I've ever done for my personal life was leaving my hometown and home state. Because ultimately what happens is people get homogenized, I guess is the word, and they just settle into a certain way of being and they never change, they don't grow or evolve. But more than that, what's created are areas and little pockets where they can basically threaten you. Oh, like let's say you work at a grocery store and you live in a real small town where there's like 3 grocery stores. Well, if they're real crazy at yours, I mean, you can always do something other than working at a grocery store. My point is, most people select jobs similar to the last one that they had. So now you have to go apply at these other 2 stores in town. But if your boss knows the managers over there and they know your boss, well, essentially they can blacklist you. So I really, really am trying to create a situation where you can't be blacklisted, where essentially every job that you do is voluntary. Every job that you do is voluntary because they literally can't threaten your life. So that's another reason I have taken so personally this whole vaccine mandate issue, because to me now I feel like they have threatened the final frontier for me. Because as long as I can work, you cannot hold me down. You can't. As long as I can work somewhere, I will survive. Guarantee. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. But now they're trying to create a world where there's like a what the college degree used to do, the vaccine passport now does. And it's almost like they are controlling you on the front end before you even get in the door. Very similar to drug testing, except at least with drug testing, it's one and done for the most part. I still think that's a personal violation of your rights and freedoms, but that's a different show for a different time. But it's worse than drug testing. You know what I mean? Like you have to have taken something internally to even work here. So that means you've dramatically limited my employment options. They're trying to kill me. I know they are. That's how I know what's going to happen next. It's like every area I figure out how to hack, they attack it. That's how I know they're going to force these babies to be born in the future. And I'm not talking about Roe v. Wade either, but let me stop. I'm not on the right channel for all that chatter. I'll save that for my other channel. But pretty much any area I hack gets attacked ultimately. So that's how I know what's coming next for you guys. But I figured out how to hack work, got attacked. So anyway, different show, different channel, wrong channel for all that. My point, let's wrap up some thoughts, some summary thoughts, okay? Oh, absolutely. The chat says, are you going to do a live on Jay Black, the man who just killed his pregnant girlfriend and ex-wife that consumed manosphere content? Absolutely. I actually already have the title of that show. The title of that show is The Sick and Dangerous Men Masterclass. Yes, we will be doing that. Oh, absolutely. I almost did that one this morning, but I decided that's more of an afternoon, evening show. Absolutely. Because I've literally been trying to warn about that very thing for years now. Years. So yes, we are. But some closing thoughts and then we'll get out of here. Look at that, less than an hour. I consider anything less than an hour quick. Some closing thoughts, you guys. My greatest hope for you all, above all other things is that you find your sense of self protection again, that you reestablish it in yourself and use it often and use it frequently. The way I've compared it or explained it before was picture being like a child and someone is trying to take your toy from you and you're like, no. And like you snatch away and you're like, no. And when we see little kids do it, it's cute and it's funny because they're little, you know what I mean? But as we grow up, we kind of grow out of that behavior in favor of more agreeable behavior. Someone tries to take your toy from you, they want you to kind of turn towards them and be like, oh, you like my toy? Well, here, let's share. You know what I mean? That's what they want from you, from the adult, basically. Or just give it up, just hand the toy over. They don't want you to turn and snatch and say, no, my toy, mine. They don't want you to do that. And it's that no that I want to reestablish in you. It's that sense of you are worthy of being protected. It's that sense of protecting your vessel, protecting your body. Like I tell people all the time, mainly on my other channel, I'm very protective of myself, very protective. I'm protective of my little vessel. I love her. I don't want her to get hurt. So I protect her because who else will? But a lot of people are not even protective of themselves, you guys. They're really not. And in such, they lose the fight. They lose the sense of self-protection. They lose their inner voice that would say, get out now, leave the factory right now. Who cares about the stupid job? Because they probably weren't very nice to them anyway. They probably weren't very nice to them anyway. Like, do you think they were treating these workers with the utmost respect? I think I read somewhere that they were making $8 an hour, which you know, I guess an even swap is not a swindle, but come on. Do you think they were working in the happiest place on earth? So these people who you probably already didn't like, who you probably wanted to quit on many times before, are now putting you in a life or death situation. And you are trusting their judgment. And look where they led you. Do you see what I mean? So anytime you find yourself in a situation that is essentially life or death or can quickly become life or death, and you have the option of leaving, but leaving is going to make you look bad, what I'm trying to ask you to do and train you to do is be okay with looking bad. Be okay with looking bad. Because I believe the owner of this factory survived. And of course he did. Because he was probably somewhere home in a basement. You see what I mean? Where's the basement in this thing? How come this thing has no basement? This area is known to get tornadoes, is it not? Where's the basement? But anyway, the owner of the factory is just fine. Want y'all to know that, just in case anyone was wondering, is the owner safe? The owner is safe and sound, perfectly healthy and fine. Okay? So while the owner is safe and sound, they're busy trying to dig you out from underneath this rubble. Okay? Now, how would I feel differently about this? If the same factory had said, hey, listen, guys, we've got some really bad weather coming this way. We don't know for sure if it's going to hit touchdown, but it might. If you want to leave, you're more than welcome to leave. You will not be penalized. Obviously, you won't get paid. But then again, that might be the classy thing to do. Like, hey, we'll pay you for the rest of your shift because it's not really your fault. But if you want to be capitalistic, fine. If you want to leave, go ahead and go home. You just won't get paid for those hours that you were supposed to be here or whatever. But if you want to stay and work, you're more than welcome. But do be advised, there's some bad weather in the area. And here's how to stay safe if you decide to stay. That's how you do it in the right way, honestly. You know what I mean? You give them the choice. Hey, if you need to leave and go take care of your kids, go ahead. We'll see you tomorrow. But if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay. But we do think it's going to get pretty ugly out here. So make sure you know where the hallways are. But no, it's like if you leave, you're more than likely going to be fired. That's all they think about. That's all they care about, y'all. All they care about is just putting these boxes out by the dozens, by the millions every day, come hell or high water. Like somewhere, someone right now is simply worried about all the orders they were supposed to fulfill, all the different orders that they're missing, all the money that's going to be lost behind this. That's all that some people are thinking about right now, not the lives that made this factory go. So, again, I want you all to be the captain of your own ship. I want you to trust yourself, trust your judgment. Stop putting your life in the hands of people who do not love you. They don't love you. They barely like you. Barely, just barely. But they definitely don't love you. Only you can love you enough to save yourself from a situation like this. Now, I know tornadoes can be very, very sudden and pop out of nowhere, but they had an opportunity to leave and were essentially threatened with job loss if they left. Always threatening job loss. Always. I'll fire you. I'll fire you. I'll fire you. It's like their little power stick. It's like some of these people could not wait to be business owners, and some of these people could not wait to become managers, supervisors, and leaders just so they could hold the I'll fire you power stick one day, just so they could hold somebody else's life in their hands. Because that's literally what it is. Their rent, their car note, their gas, their food, their electricity, their phone, their internet. You're holding all that in your hands, your hands. So basically, you get to be God. You get to decide if they live or die on a day-to-day basis. So what I'm trying to create are people who can't be threatened in that way. Can't be threatened in that way. You don't get to decide whether or not I live or die. You are what I call a supplement. And it was great. And however long you can make that supplement go, make it go, honey. But when the supplement is done, it's done and you move on. But that's what I'm trying to give you your power back. So much of our power was handed over right after high school and we never got it back. But it's a gradual process. It's a slow process. It's not something that happens quick. So you're not going to get your power back in one weekend, but it's a mindset shift. And it's also a behavioral shift that eventually creates a situation where you can quit a job and take 3 or 4 months off before you even start looking again, because you've done things on the back end to allow that to happen. So that's my goal for you guys. I'm tired of these people threatening you. I'm tired of it being a situation where you can be threatened. You see what I mean? But that's how they want it, because without that desperation, they wouldn't be able to get these little factories up and running. They really wouldn't. Like they are so thirsty, desperate to fire. It's unbelievable. For people who are always complaining about people who don't want to work, they love to fire people. Like I swear it gets their rocks off, y'all. It makes them excited. They love it. Like it's exciting for them to basically take life from you. It is. It's like they took your breath away and they loved it. Can't wait to do it again. All right. The chat says, did the company you used to work for with the guy that went postal when he got fired? Well, he didn't go postal. They thought he was going to, but he didn't. It says, did they have more coworker outings after that? Of course they did. Oh my God. Oh yeah, absolutely. That didn't stop. I felt so bad for him, man. I feel like he's a classic example. You know how we're always looking on the news break of these people losing their minds on these airplanes and we can't figure out why? I feel like that happened to him. Like he was totally normal. I remember seeing him before we took off. So I saw him in the airport. We were talking. He was perfectly fine. We arrived where we were going. Everyone checked in. Didn't really see him again to the next day and the next evening. And that's when he had snapped. Like something happened to him between the time I saw him in the airport and the time I saw him again. And it's like something threw off his whole chemical balance, man. I don't know. But it was a sad situation. I just thought to myself, what if we had the power and the autonomy to say no to these things? No, I don't think I'm going. You guys have fun. I'm not going to the trip. I don't think that kind of stuff is healthy for me. Actually, going forward, you guys, I think I'm going to actually start saying that in the workplace, on interviews, when they start suggesting different things, I'm just going to say, honestly, I don't think that doesn't sound very healthy for me. I don't think that would be a healthy experience for me. So yeah, cabin in the woods, that doesn't sound like a very healthy experience for me. Say it and mean it. Because again, if you don't fight for yourself, who else will? And I said I was going to conclude in under an hour, and here I am over. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I feel like I had more thoughts, but I just can't think of them. And I will think of them when I'm watching the playback, which is always so frustrating. But I think I hit them all. Just a very, very high level, very tragic example of what happens when we don't trust our own inner instincts, when we allow the fear of these people, the fear of job loss, the fear of these things to rule our lives. This is what can happen. No, I'm not blaming these workers. I know what it's like to need a job. I know what it's like to not want to look bad and all of that. But I also know that these companies really don't care about you. They really don't. They give you the bare minimum. They do the bare minimum that they have to, that the law requires. So basically, if they pay you minimum wage, they would actually pay you less, but the law won't let them. So I don't suffer people and I don't go out of my way to accommodate people who are only paying me what the law forces them to, if that's the situation. You see what I mean? Like I think we all need some really firm boundary resetting. I should really just start a firestorm on LinkedIn in 2022 and just go on there and just start flaming these people. And one of my first posts would be all about boundary resetting and simply reminding them of who they are, which is an employer, and who we are, which is an employee. I'm not your wife. I'm not your mom. I'm not your auntie. I'm not your girlfriend, therapist. I'm none of those things. I am your employee. That's it. Okay? Yes, they will. Says they'll replace you tomorrow if you pass away on site. They surely will. They might put like a little flower on your desk for a day or two. Come wipe it down with some Clorox wipes and have someone else in that desk within a couple of weeks saying, please don't tell them that the dead girl used to sit here. All right. Let me get off of here before I keep going. You guys have a wonderful day. Please remember to protect yourself. Never be afraid to leave any situation that is threatening your life. Okay? Never be afraid to leave. It'll be one of the proudest moments of your life. Okay? It really will be. And with that, take care. And we will talk again very, very soon. Bye.